Wow, thank you so much for that introduction. When I hear my bio, sometimes I'm often reminded of that Michelangelo quote. If you only knew how hard I worked at my craft, you wouldn't be so surprised at what I've created. I have a little bit of a different take on that quote. I like to say, if you only knew how many times I failed at entrepreneurship, you wouldn't be surprised by the occasional success that I've had. So when I hear my bio, I have to think about how humbling it's been on this entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's the theme that we're going to have today in this talk, how an apple juice stain changed education for good. As an entrepreneur, I like to say it's not for the faint of heart. Entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial mindset is all about resilience and perseverance and overcoming adversity. It's not like every entrepreneur, every time they try to start a new business and build a new business, are successful. And I can share a lot of stories about the humility that I've gone through as a aspiring entrepreneur, and now in this role as entrepreneur in residence at Catalyst at Penn GSE. I think about that story when I was in my living room in the year 2000 when I was starting a business, and we were kind of down to our last couple of payrolls, and we couldn't afford an office, and we were building this business and building this company. And my team came to my house in my living room, and we were doing a team building meeting. And at the end of the meeting, the paychecks for all of the team members were on the mantle in my living room. And I handed out the paychecks. And at the end of the meeting, and as everybody left, my wife kind of looked at me and said, "Okay, well, where's our paycheck?" And I'll never forget, I kind of looked at her funny and I said, "We don't get a paycheck. As the founder of this company, we're getting paid in equity." And she kind of looked at me crooked and she said, "Well, I hope the gas station takes equity because we can't put gas in our car. And I hope the grocery store takes equity because we can't pay for groceries." And that's kind of the life of an entrepreneur, the ups and downs, how we traverse through that journey. I'll never forget when my wife started talking about eating equity sandwiches because we couldn't afford groceries. My young son kind of looked at me and he said, "Well, Dad, I guess it's time for you to get a real job." Talk about humbling. That's JJ right there. He was along the ride. And before we end this story with all bad news, it ends pretty well. This is JJ graduating this past June as a graduate of the Wharton School of Business, majoring in entrepreneurship. So there are no coincidences on my entrepreneurial journey. He kind of learned something, and he's now off on aspiring to be an entrepreneur and an innovator in digital technology. So my entrepreneurial success story and some of the lessons learned really starts right here with what we call a backpack memo. Back in the year 2000, my business partner, a co-founder, came to me with this backpack memo, and he threw it down on my desk and he said, "John, is this really the way that we're still communicating with parents?" And I said, "Bennett," his name Bennett List, great entrepreneur and founder himself. I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, I went to back to school night for my son. His son was in kindergarten, first back to school night that he attended. And when I got to school, the school was dark." I kind of looked at him strange, and he said, "Yeah, the school was dark." And when I asked the custodian at the school when was back to school night, the custodian laughed at me and said, "Back to school night was 2 nights ago." And he pulled out this backpack memo, this exact backpack memo, and there was an apple juice stain on the date and time of back to school night. He missed back to school night, the first back to school night for his son. And he said, "We're going to change this. We're going to create the first and only school-to-home communications network that allows a principal to record a personalized voice message and send that message out to parents in a moment's notice." I said, "You're crazy. This has already been done. I've seen polling software and auto dialers for marketing campaigns, and I think this has already been created." But we did some market research, we did some customer discovery, and sure enough, we were able to create the first and only school-to-home communications network that allowed a principal to record a personalized voice message and send it out to parents in a moment's notice. And as we built that, I had to learn a lot of lessons. After 2 years of building the best, most fault-tolerant, load-balanced, super secure school-to-home communications network, we had sold 0 contracts. And there was a lot of lessons learned along the way. And that's what I'm going to share today is 3 core lessons learned as we built this company and ultimately exited in 2008. Lesson number 1, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. It's unbelievable that as we were building this company, I had, a great technology, but I had no idea how to sell the product and service into the K-12 environment. I needed to bring in a leader, Tom Motter, who taught me that superintendents and school principals have the biggest circular file, the biggest trash can, that the way that I was trying to market and sell the product directly through direct mail and through advertising was never going to work, that I needed to think about relationship sales. I needed to think about piloting the software and the solution. I needed to bring in somebody like Tom, who already had trusted relationships with the K-12 community, and learn from him how to specifically sell this product and service into the K-12 school system. Second person that I brought in, surrounding myself with people who are smarter than me, Gigi Goodling, who came to me and said, John, you're trying to sell this product into schools. Do you know about COPPA and do you know about FERPA? And I said, COPPA and FERPA? I had no idea. She said, well, you're selling into K-12 schools. You really need to think about privacy. You need to think about security. You need to think about what it would take to be able to sell a product or service into a school environment that really upheld the values of privacy and security to protect students. So surrounded myself with a great general counsel in Gigi. She taught me how to create a contract and a proposal that could be sold into the K-12 environment. And off we went. We had a great salesperson, sales leader who knew how to build relationships in schools. We had a great general counsel who knew how to protect us from a privacy and security standpoint. And then we brought in Josh Roth. And very interesting right away, Josh looked at the school-to-home communications network and he tested it out, and he was really into quality assurance. And he said, John, you're sending these messages out for outreach and to make parents aware of events, but you really need to remember Columbine. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, during the tragic events of Columbine in 1998, there was a requirement for emergency communications, and that's going to happen again eventually. And we're going to need to be ready for that. And if I come in as your technology leader, the first thing that I want to do is be able to send out 50,000 messages in under 15 minutes so that in the event of the unthinkable, we'll be able to respond. Sure enough, 2001, after bringing in Tom Motter, Gigi Goodling, and Josh Roth, that school there is Grace Church School, which is a few blocks away from the World Trade Centers. And all of my clients in 2001 were using our product during the tragic events of 9/11. This school actually got a message out to parents saying the students are safe. They're bunkered in the basement. Please don't come to the school. It'd be safer if we send you an all clear call soon enough. So 50,000 messages were able to get out in under 15 minutes on 9/11. Thankfully, I had surrounded myself with people who are smarter than me in marketing and sales, general counsel and legal, and technology development. Luckily, and I'm incredibly humbled and inspired to tell you that Tom Motter went on to be an executive at Blackboard, the LMS company, who eventually purchased our product and service. PACE was the name of the company, the Partnership for Academic and Community Excellence. Gigi Goodling went on to become general counsel at Zip Recruiter, which a lot of you probably know. And humbled to say that my good friend Josh Roth went on to become and is still currently serving as the CTO of Ring.com, which was sold to Amazon a few years ago for $1.5 billion. So I was humbled to learn that lesson right away, that it's not only about building a great platform or great technology. Lesson number 1, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Lesson number 2, quantify your value. I'm a real big fan of John Doerr and the book Measure What Matters. I'm a big fan of OKRs, objectives and key results. And I'm going to talk about this journey with this company, about how measuring what matters and quantifying my value with specific customers, small customers, large customers, and ultimately with investors was a critical success factor for allowing us to build, deploy, grow, and eventually exit this business. So this is a school in Irvine, California, one of our first elementary school clients. Any of you from the West Coast and Irvine Unified School District, Turtle Rock. I went in to pitch the PACE product to the principal. And when I got in and made my presentation, there was a fourth grader named Johnny in the principal's office waiting to meet with Principal Jones. And he kind of looked at me in my nice suit as I went in and made the presentation, gave the presentation of my life, probably the 100th presentation I had given to a principal. And the principal just kind of shook his head and said, we're not going to be able to love the product, think it's great, but we're not going to be able to purchase it. We're firing teachers. We have budget cuts. We're not able to afford something like this and add this to our budget. I can never forget when I left Turtle Rock Elementary and passed Johnny, he said, no sale for you. And talk about being humbled and having to overcome adversity as an entrepreneur. That was one of those moments. But you know, there you see a bench in front of the school. There was a picture on that bench, and the picture was of a realtor. And on the bench, the realtor had there was an advertisement that said, Neil Klimo sells Irvine. And I said to myself, in the spirit of measuring what matters and quantifying the value, I wonder what Neil Klimo of Remax Premier Real Estate paid to advertise on that bus bench. And I wonder what it would take to get him to potentially be a sponsor of the messages at Turtle Rock Elementary School. So I did some market research, I did an analysis, and I learned that Neil was paying about $500 per year for that bus bench. I went out to Neil and I said, hey, how much would you pay if I told you that Principal Jones, when sending a message out to parents, would recognize you? This message is brought to you by our partner in education, Neil Klimo of Remax Premier Real Estate. How much would you pay for that recognition? And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I hope he says $500 because I'll be able to sell that to him. And he looked at me and he kind of lit up and he said, John, I'd pay $5,000 for that kind of recognition, to be recognized by the most trusted of institution. And he signed a check, he gave it to us, and everyone won in this, through this lens of quantifying your value. The principal won because the principal got an incredible product. The teacher won. The community won because they were getting messages that were being sent out to parents, and the company won because we were getting paid a premium for that product. So measure what matters, create a win-win, find a way to sell your product in creatively through the lens of quantifying what matters. The second one was this was Sacramento School District in Sacramento City, California, the capital of California. And we went in there and presented PACE and our attendance communications capability. And we had done some pilots. And as we were getting the pilots done, we were able to quantify the value of sending attendance communications out to parents. Sacramento at the time was about 93% attendance. California schools are paid based on the attendance at schools. And we had done a calculation through the spirit of quantifying the value that if we could get attendance up from 93 to 94%, 1 percentage point, the product would pay for itself at $3 per student per year. So we did 3 pilots with 3 high schools. And not only did we see attendance go up a little bit, but it started going up from 93% to 95% because parents were getting the attendance communications. Your son or daughter was marked absent today. Please call the school and excuse the absence. Suddenly, as parents were getting those calls, they were pushing their students to get back to school. Truancy went down, attendance went up. We were able to get that up to 95% and quantify the value, thereby turning the PACE product from a cost center to an actual profit center. The product was actually making money for the school district. Lesson number 2, quantify your value. This gentleman right here is Robin Richards. He was getting our messages. Quantify your value to your prospective investors. Robin came to us and said, hey, John, we're really interested in this product. I'm getting the messages at home. Are you looking for investors? I said, of course I'm looking for investors. I was trying to raise capital at the time. He said, come down, sit down with me for lunch, and we'll go through whether we can invest in the company. Sat down with Robin. He said, good news, bad news. I always, as an entrepreneur, want bad news. He said, we're not going to invest in the company. We've decided to purchase the company. My eyes lit up. It was very difficult. I was very young at the time. I didn't even know that we were for sale. He said, if your contracts are standardized, if you validated your value proposition, and if you're able to quantify the value, we're going to cut you a check for a significant amount to exit the company. 16 weeks later, through due diligence, we sold the company in 2004 in an all-cash exit to Robin and his team. I stayed on as president. 4 years later, as we moved the company from the West Coast to the East Coast, following these lessons learned, surrounding ourselves with more talented team members, quantifying the value with our districts and schools, with outreach communications, emergency communications, and student attendance communications, we were able to quantify the value, sell the company in an all-cash exit for $182 million in 2008. Lesson number 3, do what you love and love what you do. Find your passion, find your why. Right after that exit, I started getting involved in other businesses, focused on developing or having a foundation called the Gamba Family Foundation, which is committed to closing the achievement gap for inner city schools. Embarked on that. We've just given away our $1,000,000 to causes that are really focused on teaching and learning in the deeper learning movement. Do what you love, love what you do. I started saying no to other investment opportunities in med tech and fintech and real estate technology, and really started staying focused on EdTech and transformative applications in education. Co-founded a company called Massive View in Naples, Florida, and applied all of the lessons learned previously through that last exit. Brought in a management team of experienced technologists, experienced customer success people, experienced operations people. We pivoted from a direct-to-consumer to a B2B focus, and eventually raised angel, seed, and Series A capital. Massive View recently exited to Tallagy on the West Coast, but again, following all of those rules, bringing in superior talent, surrounding myself with people who are smarter than me, and measuring what matters and having key performance indicators and OKRs accordingly. That brought me to Catalyst at Penn GSE, which has a mission of advancing innovation, impact, and equity in worldwide education. We do that through a continuum of programming, including meetups, webinars, and our signature program, the Milken Penn GSE Business Plan Competition, now in its 14th year, where we give away $150,000 in cash and prizes per year to 4 ventures that are transforming education as we know it. Some fast facts on our Milken Penn GSE Business Plan Competition, and that has brought us to converting knowledge to action with our secret sauce, research to practice, where we're advising and counseling and mentoring EdTech entrepreneurs, imparting in them the same lessons learned on my entrepreneurial journey. Business modeling, enterprise development, good team members, system specifications, technology applications that are safe, secure, integrated, and tactical implementation with a lens toward research to practice. We've created an innovation index to measure the value that we're delivering to the schools that are using the products and services that are being developed by the entrepreneurs we support. Here's a couple of reading assignments for anybody who wants to meet with me. The Lean Startup, we're really big on Eric Ries's Lean Startup. The Discipline of Market Leaders by Tracy and Weiserman, which talks about value proposition. And if you want a lens into what's working in EdTech, please read Alive in the Swamp by Caitlin Donnelly of Avalanche Ventures. Leave you on this final quote: have a bias towards action. let's see something happen now. You can break that big plan into small steps and take the first step right away by Indira Gandhi, and reach out to me anytime, jgamba@upenn.edu, calendly.com/John Gamba to meet in our Entrepreneur in Residence hours, half-hour sessions where we can coach you on incubating your business, because you never know when an apple juice stain can turn into $182 million. Thank you.